Here at Omaha North with Camp Confidential, Coach Martin is our next guest. Coach, obviously you lost basically your whole offensive line outside of one. You lost one of the greatest leaders this school's ever seen, and not saying a lot, in Tyson Terry. But you still are going to be in the conversation because you're Omaha North football with Larry Martin as the head coach. How has the adjustment been so far with this new group?
You know, I think that the biggest things that you try to talk to the kids about is that you don't replace guys like that. You just don't. You learn from what they brought to the table and learned how that enhanced your program. And I was proud to sit here and listen, or stand there and listen to the kids about the different things that young man stood for and what he brought to the program. And you know, they're not trying to be Tyson Terry. They're trying to be themselves, which they did. And unfortunately, we got a little bit of dose of that because Tyson got hurt, you know, on the field, and those two young men were very vocal leaders on their sides of the ball, and obviously Tyson, you know, continued that role outside of there. But you know, when you lose guys like that, obviously you know your team's probably not going to get maybe as far as you were hoping for because you don't replace guys like you just don't. But the impact that he's made on our program and what these guys have learned from that, and what they've, you know, become their own self and the way they want to lead has really been nice to watch and grow.
One of those guys that we didn't talk to today, but Darion Jones, obviously committed to Iowa, had a bunch of options. We're talking about vocal leader. That's a guy.
Yeah.
He had 8 interceptions last year on the defensive side of the ball, 11 touchdowns and 776 yards on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously going to be another two-way guy and is electric. What about his leadership and his offseason that you've seen from him?
Darion's been just on fire.
Right.
I mean, since the season got over, that desire and fire of wanting to become the best player and teammate and leader that he can, it's just been really remarkable to watch. You know, I've known Darion since, you know, his dad coached with me.
Right.
I knew him when he was born, and but just watch him blossom, becoming him himself. You know, he's not trying to be Donovan. He's not trying to be Tyson. He's Darion.
Yeah. And
he's competitive, and he studies, and he works hard, and he deserves everything that he's gotten because of what he stands for and what he's willing to do to reach that level.
Coach, you know, looking at just this team in practice today for the opening day, there were so many big names that have been out there, and we've talked about them before, but how's that attitude of the team changed? You got a lot of high-profile individuals, but everyone was kind of in a workman attitude today, it felt like.
Yeah, they're very unselfish. You know, we were fortunate enough to play in Mike's tournament, and we had a lot of success.
Yeah.
Obviously, we won it.
Champs.
But the important thing that came from that, from me, was just watching. One of the important things came just watching the kids interact with each other when things weren't going well, because that type of stuff, you know, you can act like it's all good until you get in the games and you start getting beat. And then watching them cheer for each other. When you know, Darion and Max and Jaron and Jermaine, and watching them all cheer for their teammates when they made good plays and stuff like that. That stuff's infectious. In a world that we can live in at times that can be very statistic driven and me driven and NLI and all that type of stuff, I was watching these guys come together as a true group of young men that want to play hard for this school.
Mm-hmm. Linebacker is a strength. Obviously, Max is back, but BJ Lewis is back too. And you had 3 of the 4 guys in there back, and you guys, you know, obviously run that 3-4 base normally. So that group, I guess, talk about that group a little bit, because they're going to be clearly a strength of your defense.
No doubt. You know, and the key for us is because, you know, you lose a Tyson, you lose a Greg Moore, you know, on the D line. Now, what I've learned over the years is that we may not be as good at one of those positions, but we can make that group of 3 of them. That's the key, is to find the 3, the inside, the D lineman, and the outside linebacker that work good together. So we don't have a strong and a down, you know, and not, you know, just finding those 3 to be, you know, James Harrington and Max and BJ all played for us last year. Marquise Lewis is on the D line. We've got to find that balance. You know, the will linebacker position, still working on that, but just finding those other 2 D linemen and then putting those groups together so that we, you know, that's what I've tried to learn over the years is not have all my best players on, you know, playing on the left side of our defense or right side, of making that group better.
Some balance.
Yeah, and I think having that linebacker core will help us with that D line as they grow and mature and learn what it's like to play on Friday night in Class A football.
Right.
Coach, looking at your trenches, I was impressed by the size, but how do you keep their technique strong, especially just teaching them when you're kind of replacing that core group from last year?
Yeah, you know what, to me it all starts up with their strength and physicality. You know, those are the two things. So we really work hard in the winter and in the spring. I don't know how much stronger you can get in the summer. It's a short window, but in the winter and the spring, we really work hard on getting strong. And then coming out here and really trying to find the balance of what side of the ball they're going to play on, what fits them the best, and then really hone in on the technique, you know, and really try to teach them and get them a lot of reps during practice.
You're on your third quarterback in 3 years now. Mikey Gow left. He threw for over 2,000 yards. Had a great season for you last year.
No doubt.
Fit in great, right?
Yep, no doubt.
20 touchdowns, 400. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Elijah Cannon comes over from prep and looks to be the guy,
Sure.
right, at quarterback. What have you seen so far from him?
Well, for us, you know, I just really want one thing we've learned. We've kind of, at that position only having one, you're right, you know, and so you don't want to run them. And so we feel very good about that room. We're very blessed. It's a long time since North's had, 3 or 4 quarterbacks, and stuff like that. So we want to continue to develop that room. I've watched Elijah, come in here. He's a senior. He's had a lot of high quality reps and stuff like that, and just really not come in with any hidden agendas. Just come in and went to work. That's what I told him I appreciated the most about him. He just didn't come in and think just because he was going to be a senior, he was going to be the starter. And we really haven't named a starter yet. He's getting a lot of reps with the older guys and stuff like that. But he's just come in and been no nonsense. Learning to take more leadership. And I know that's hard to do. When you come here, and you're not here all 4 years, but learning what that role of what the quarterback position, is truly about. And Dom and Eli, I'll keep pushing him and keep working hard. They're just going to be sophomores, but I'd put their accuracy and athletic ability up against any sophomore in the state with those 2 young men. So yeah.
We heard from some of your guys a little bit earlier, and I felt like we heard the word explosive, big plays, that sort of stuff. Is that a priority for the offense this season?
Yeah, we definitely have some guys that can do that, and to me, it's always about finding that balance. I'm a two-way guy. The skill position
you like
guys
to run the ball.
Yeah, we do like to do that.
Big plays on the ground.
The one thing that Coach Mack, Dan McLaughlin came in here last year. Now, obviously, we had some very good talent also, but we were as balanced offensively as we've ever been since we've been here.
Right.
I think we actually threw the ball for almost just as many yards as we rushed the ball as a team.
Right.
And that includes against the top end teams and stuff like that too. So really excited about that. I think we made some overhaul changes to our offense. That's been good moves. Obviously you got to have talent in order to do that. Takes the pressure off the running game. Really excited about Jaron. I know I'm getting on a tangent here, but
right.
Jaron did not play healthy last year.
Right.
It's as good as I've ever seen him look. And he's put on some good weight. I know he alluded to that we've got another running back, Michael Valencia, that's here. We've been, anybody that's historically watched our program, we like playing 2 running backs because we do like to run the football, but we want to be balanced. We really do. And as long as we can throw it, we will be like that offensively. But we've got a lot of work to do up front, replacing 4 out of the 5 starters. I know you talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Kids are working hard, though. They don't want to disappoint their teammates. They want to work hard at it.
Yeah. Not only Darion at the receiver position, but Rier, Washington, Chase Kidman, Corday Richard, and then Max playing tight end is kind of a little, a little different.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of
there's some weapons, and I just watch those young men. That's the one nice thing about the 7-on-7 tournament is there's some very talented kids in there that can definitely. And I'm sure people are like, oh, well, maybe we need to throw the ball more. I don't know, but there's definitely some kids in there and that can make plays, and we can be very explosive when we get the ball to them out in space.
I want to ask you about Jaron. And we asked him this about being, going down as one of those big names in Omaha North running back history, because it's a thing.
No doubt.
You've had great running backs in the last 20 years, since you've been here for sure, and even before that. What does he have to do to be one of those?
Well, the biggest thing is Mom and Dad are both grads.
You're right.
His parents are both North High grads. They bleed blue, and so I'm excited to have him. We just got to keep him healthy.
Right.
We did some things out here during camp that I watched him, and I'm just telling you, he's better than what I've ever seen him look. And I'm really excited about that. I don't want to get, jinx us or anything like that, but Jaron looks very explosive right now, and his hips and his change in direction and stuff like that. So we got to keep him healthy, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
And he's right there with all those guys. I mean, he's tough, durable, just like all of those guys. He always took shots about his size and stuff like that, but pound for pound, he's a tough dude. It reminds me, I told him he's a little bit of Calvin and Milton both. A little bit of shake. He's got the size and stuff like that.
Right.
It's a pretty good mix.
And I'm sure is really glad that he's an Omaha North Viking. That's for sure.
One last one here, I guess. You opening with the Omaha Westside. Obviously, you're taking it one game at a time.
Yeah.
It's a big opponent.
No
right?
doubt.
And you went there last year, and they kind of handled you. Now you host them. And there was talk of, can we change that game to Friday or 4 o'clock on Saturday or whatever? Like you were like, no. we want to play at 7 p.m. on that Thursday night. Like we don't want to change it because that's what we do. That opponent though is kind of a big deal. What's that message to kind of?
So when the state comes out with that, we were that team.
Right.
We want to get back to there. Okay. We played in 5 state championships, won 3, and the only way I know how to do it is to go. If you want to be the best, you got to play the best.
Right.
And so when it came out, we want to play them. There's no disrespect. If anything, that's respect. And Paul knows I have that for him and his for that program. And so we want to play them. I don't know if I want to play them week 1, but it's a great matchup. I get the state, but it does those things and stuff like that. So you're only going to get better. And so our kids are excited. I sat down a couple years ago with the guys, and we came up with a list of schools that we wanted to play, and they were the team that our kids want to play, because you know that when you play them, when you beat them, that if you can beat them, you earned it. Now, not a lot of people have done that, but you can walk off that field knowing that your football team got better. It's a great measuring stick for you.
And you brought that up too. Like there's a lot of mutual respect between the staffs.
No doubt.
No doubt like that.
Yeah, no doubt. We've been friends for a long time, and it's competitive. Don't get me wrong, and we probably won't talk a lot that week. But he knows our kids we're gonna demand that they play hard, and we're gonna do everything we can to be physical, and we're gonna make each other better, and and we're gonna shake hands and move on, and got a whole lot of season left to play.
All right, Coach. Thanks for your time. Thanks for having
appreciate
us.
you guys. I know this is a busy time of the year.
Yeah.
So,
all
right, you bet.